Hello, and thank you so much for spending a few moments with me today. My name is Laura Torbett. I'm a mama, a yoga teacher, and a movement enthusiast. And I'm here today to share a bit about my own hormone story and how it led me to create the Lune Collective, which is the first workout platform to bring you a four-phase approach to movement with workouts that cater to your menstrual cycle. And I want to start today with a bit of a confession. Right out the gate, I am in the comfort of my own home, speaking into a camera, and I am nervous. I have butterflies in my stomach. I feel my heart sort of fluttering and some heat. And what that's telling me is that this matters. I've had this feeling before, and it's always my body's way of letting me know that this is important and this matters. So I want to first honor you and celebrate you for taking accountability and writing your own hormone story and getting into alignment with your body's natural rhythm. So I'll start there with my own hormone story because I know we all have one. I think we all have a deep knowing that our cycles are sort of intrinsically divine. And we have this understanding that our bodies adhere to more than just the 24-hour clock alone. So whether we see our period as a nuisance or as a gateway to our creative power, we kind of have this subconscious awareness that there's something greater at play. And I had that. I had that subconscious awareness of my cycle. But it took about 20 years. I lived 20 years under the assumption that as a woman, I was either on my period or off. And it was this sort of thing that I didn't think about most of the month until my period arrived. And it wasn't until a very deeply personal struggle with infertility that I started to look at my cycle through a more curious lens. And even then, it wasn't in service of my body. It was an attempt to answer the call to motherhood, one that had become a very strong call, but that I was having trouble answering. So I started to look at my cycle with the end goal of becoming pregnant. And I did. It took a long time, but I did eventually get pregnant and had my beautiful daughter. And it wasn't until 3 years and 2 babies, I had a son as well later, and after having gone a very long time without having a period, that I started to realize how much I was missing it. I was really craving that cyclical nature of creation and dissolution that helped me tune into kind of my own natural rhythm. And so I had this inkling postpartum with my son that something was kind of missing. I was feeling a bit heavy postpartum, energetically heavy. I was very deeply fatigued, and I had a sense that something was missing, but I didn't know what it was. So right after my son was born, kind of as soon as physically possible, I went back into exercise. I went right back into the high intensity workouts that I thought were the answer to my overwhelming feelings of fatigue and really unworthiness. I was hormone, nutrient, and sleep deprived and just pushing myself through these workouts. I would get up early or power through midday. I would grab some pre-workout energy or a cup of coffee and just get it done because I thought that happiness was on the other side of a perfect workout week. And then one day I showed up to work out. I was dressed, I had my monitor in hand with that precious 30 minutes of potential nap overlap between my children. And I felt a visceral resistance to what I was asking my body to do. I was almost paralyzed there in protest. I didn't want to do what I had set out to do for the day. It felt like an obligation. I was not looking forward to it. And it was about as far from self-care as one could possibly get. And so I stood there. I thought about going to grab some more caffeine, trying to push through. As an empowered mother of 2, I needed to just suck it up. But on this day, what had until then felt like more of a whisper from my body began to increase in volume. I started to hear it a bit louder. My body was speaking to me in a way that I could really perceive, and it was doing so through this feeling in my belly of, I don't want to do this. And so on this particular day, I took a long shower instead. And I know that seems simple and it may seem insignificant, but as someone who had been through a lifelong struggle of obsessive exercise where I would go hard and get burnt out, take 2 weeks off, then jump back in fast and furious, where I had this really dysfunctional relationship with my body and with exercise, this was a really big step. It was listening to my body. I was giving my body what it was asking for. And I didn't really think much more of it that day. I generally would have carried a bit of guilt for skipping a workout, or I would have been hard on myself and felt lazy or like I had failed for that day. But I felt grateful and I felt nourished because I chose to take a shower instead, a long shower, an uninterrupted shower. What that day did for me was it started something of a retrospective exploration of how I had been moving my body for my entire life. And through research and the work of people like Alisa Vitti, I started to realize why I was feeling the way I was feeling, why I always felt tired, why I felt an inner struggle, why I felt like I was having to override some of the signals I was getting from my body. And through that learning, through that process of body literacy and kind of awakening to the power of my cycle, I started to approach exercise in a different way. So I started to adapt my workouts based on where I was in my cycle, both in timing and intensity and even the movement modality. So I had sort of strayed from yoga for a while because I was uncomfortable sitting on my mat or being in stillness. I was sort of fighting these signals from my body and trying to find a way to check out. So I brought those practices back in. I started to live and exercise in alignment with my cycle, and I haven't gone back. And that is what brought me and inspired me to create the Lunae Collective. This 4-phase approach to movement that really addresses and supports each menstrual rhythm in a unique way. We really employ movement as an instrument of self-care. It's something that can be done for the body so that you don't have to choose. Like I felt like I always had to choose between self-care and exercise. Now they can be one and the same. When you bring the element of body awareness, mind-body connection, the breath into your workouts, they're up-leveled. They become a way to care for your body, to listen to your body. And at Lunae, we want you to be seen. We want movement to be an entry point to self-reflection and self-knowing. We want your body to be heard, where you get to listen and rest more, where you're not pushing through workouts because you feel like you have to. And when you let your body be moved with empowering workouts that you enjoy, you get to tap into the flow. You enter into the flow. That's where your power is. You get to leverage what's happening in your inner world so that you can show up in the outer world in the way that you want to.